Hello boyos, Rich Boy J here back with another video, and today we're going to review 2023 for LEGO Star Wars. Now that we have the Venator set released, 2023 is pretty much wrapped up in terms of LEGO Star Wars sets that we're going to be getting. So I wanted to take this video and look back on the year and just discuss everything from top to bottom and really figure out how did this year go for LEGO Star Wars. Now, because we have so many mini waves throughout the year now, I want to go month by month basically and then talk about the sets that corresponded. I thought January started off on an okay note. We had the release of the Boba Fett Slave One Microfighter, we had the 501st Specialist Battle Pack come out, and we had the TIE Bomber set. I think amongst the three, the TIE Bomber was definitely the one that I was most excited about. I think the fact that LEGO threw a Ray Sloan minifigure in that set was also a really random yet cool thing for them to do, and I think that for fans of the things that are more like ancillary materials, like the books, comics, for LEGO to throw those people a bone like that and just give them a minifigure that, you know, no one ever would have expected to be in a set like that was actually a really cool thing by LEGO. And it's not something even to this point that they do super often, but I definitely would like to see them do it a bit more. As for the 501st Battle Pack, I think that this one, of the two 501st Battle Packs that we got this year, is probably my least favorite. I just honestly didn't see a reason to do this particular battle pack pretty much right after they did the 501st Clone Trooper set not that long ago. It certainly doesn't help that it's a specialist set, so for my collection purposes, I don't need to build an army full of specialists. If anything, if they just wanted to do a proper 501st battle pack with the updated helmet hole helmets and just give us a pack of 4 normal 501st troopers, I probably would have preferred it to this, just because then I would have had a reason to at least army build the newest version of the 501st troopers. Or if I hadn't gotten the 501st troopers set, this would have been an answer to that. March gave us 3 helmets. Anyone who knows me knows that I don't really have much to say about these sets. I'm not a fan of the helmet sets, but if the rumors are to be believed, this is probably the last batch of helmets that we're gonna get, which I think is absolutely a positive. Hopefully this can lead to us getting more play sets, more sets with minifigures. I think that that would definitely be preferable to the helmet sets we got. If there's one, I guess, positive thing I can say about it is we did at least get clone helmets, which I'm sure a lot of people found interesting, but I am not gonna miss these helmet sets whatsoever. Next up, we had May, which was the big May the 4th launch, and it included 2 play sets that came to, I'd say, mixed reviews. The Snub Fighter, for what it is, doesn't necessarily look like a bad set, but I just feel it's so unremarkable. I feel like this is definitely one of those sets that just flew under the radar. Not a lot of people cared to have it, and I think that the $35 price point certainly didn't help. The Fang Fighter and TIE Interceptor set was a cool thing conceptually. I love that LEGO's bringing back the dual set packs. I think that's a really good idea. I think that this one, unfortunately, is weighed down heavily by the Fang Fighter. The TIE Interceptor is awesome. I could see myself buying multiples just of the TIE Interceptor if it came by itself. But the Fang Fighter, I feel, just weighs this set down so much, unfortunately. I don't think it's a good build. I think that the fact that it's missing pretty much the key feature of a Fang Fighter, which is to have the rotating wings, is definitely a downgrade. The build of the Fang Fighter overall is just very underwhelming, especially when you compare it to the Interceptor in that set, which is fantastic. Keeping in line with previous years, we also had the launch of 2 diorama sets, namely the Indoor Speeder Bike Chase, as well as the Death Star diorama. I feel that previous years, I've kind of been on the fence when it comes to diorama sets. Some of them I really like the Dagobah set. Some of them, not so much, like the micro scale Death Star Trench Run. But this year, I feel really solidified me being against LEGO doing these diorama sets. I'm sorry, but the price of that Indoor Speeder Bike Chase is just outrageous. Like, there is no excuse for that. The set itself looks decent enough, but for the price you pay, I can't imagine that if they had just done a playset variant of that set, you would have gotten so much more bang for your buck with the exact same, if not more, minifigures. And speaking of which, I feel the Throne Room diorama faces the exact same problem. I think this one definitely looks a bit better than the Indoor diorama, and I think for the money you pay, it's probably a little bit more worth it. But when I compare that Death Star Throne Room diorama set to the Death Star Throne Room playset that we got not too long ago, I'm taking the playset 10 times out of 10. I think that the playset was a far more immersive way to capture the scene, given that you had the stairs that went up a little bit higher, you had the front doors, and you got multiple windows. yeah, the diorama has a more detailed singular window, but the playset I feel just captures the essence of Lego so much more. On its own, it looks totally fine to display. I'd have no issue displaying the playset, but then also when you take a look at it, there's just so many more ways you can engage with it, which I understand is the point. Like, one is an 18 plus set and one is a playset, but for the money you pay, they were the exact same price. I just feel you got so much more in the playset, and I don't think the diorama looks so much better to where I'm like, okay, I would rather have the diorama set over the playset. Now, to give the diorama set credit where credit is due, I think that the new Luke hairpiece we got on that set is fantastic. Moving on for the dioramas, if the rumors for next year are to be true, Lego did launch a brand new sub-theme for Lego Star Wars, and that is these mini-scale ships. And I have to say, the Super Star Destroyer looks really cool. I think that if I had to choose between this and the helmet sets, I think this feels so much more reasonable for a Lego Star Wars product over the helmet sets. I mean, I just get so much more out of seeing a fleet of small, like, Lego ships compared to a bunch of helmets made out of Lego lined up on someone's shelf. That might just be my opinion, however. And then finally for me, Lego launched the first UCS set of the year. That was the UCS X-Wing. And I gotta say, when I first saw images of the set, I was not sold on it at all. I was actually pretty convinced that the second version of the UCS X-Wing was better. However, after actually seeing the set built in person, I'm actually a pretty big fan of the set. I do still think there are some improvements that can be made to it, but I certainly think it's a step up over the previous iteration. And I think that it's nice to finally have an X-Wing UCS set that doesn't look, you know, wildly inferior compared to the more recent ones we've gotten, namely the Y-Wing, A-Wing, and Snowspeeder. It's also worth mentioning that the Luke minifigure that came in this set is peak. June was a pretty small month for Lego Star Wars. We got that to New Jedi Temple, which, you know, is kind of cute in its own right, but I don't think many people are going to be remembering that this set even exists once we move on past 2023. So at this point in the review, we're pretty much at the halfway point of the year for Lego Star Wars. I felt like at the midpoint of the year, there really hadn't been that one set that just blew me away. So then Lego came with the August wave of sets, and I gotta say, just looking at this list now, there aren't a lot of sets on this list that I think are particularly memorable. I don't really want to spend too much time talking about the mechs that came out, but all I'll say is I think this is just a bad idea. I think that there are so many canonical things that you could be putting out for Lego Star Wars at that price point, and I think the mechs are just not it. We got the Mando N1 Microfighter, which, I mean, was a fine microfighter, but I felt like at that point especially, we had gotten so many sets with that Mando figure and that Grogu figure, and it just really felt like more of the same that we have been getting so many times before. We got the 332nd Battle Pack, which, you know, once again, another 501st Battle Pack. It really this year felt like we were in just 501st purgatory with all these 501st and 501st adjacent sets that we were getting. We also had the Yoda's Jedi Starfighter, which I don't really think anyone was asking for. We had the Spider Tank from the Mandalorian, which I think is an okay set in itself, but once again, it's just not something I feel really stuck out to people. And for me, just felt like another big gray contraption to go along with all the other big gray contraptions that we got from the Mandalorian sets. But finally for August, we got the Yavin 4 base. And I want to talk a little bit about this. I feel this set has been very unfairly criticized. Yes, I get it, the price is not great. I agree with that. But for what the set actually includes, I feel a lot of people just honestly at this point don't know what the expectations are. When I built this set, I had so much fun going through the various sections of the build, building up the various sections of the base, and I think at this point, like, we don't get very many like Lego Star Wars sets that are bases. Like, there's the Echo base set from, you know, a number of years ago, but outside of that, we don't see very many sets like this. So I thought the fact that we got a Yavin 4 base and it came with so many minifigures for you to have pretty much no area of the base feel empty at all was a really cool thing for Lego to do. Could I live without the miniature Y-Wing inside of it? Yeah, I think if they either didn't include that in the set and dropped the price by like 40 bucks, that'd be great. Or if they kept the price the same and just added more to the base, that'd be cool too. But for the things that are included in the set, I think you get a very nice and fun Lego base. I guess I can just hope that over time people will grow more fondly of this set, because I definitely felt up until this point in the year, this was my favorite set that had come out. And now that brings us to the September wave of sets. And I feel like this one was the one that everyone was excited for, and with good reason. We had the Advent Calendar drop, which I felt was fine. I thought that getting Omega in a cheap set was pretty cool, but I think ultimately what I prefer more from Advent Calendars is when they not only include a special holiday figure, but when they also include a special kind of niche minifigure that is canonical. They haven't done that in a little while, which sucks, especially since for May the 4th, we don't, it's not a given that we're gonna get a unique minifigure. We got the Coruscant Guard Republic gunship, which is a very controversial set, and I think for good reason. I pretty much still stand on Lego should have just done a normal gunship. I can understand the slight appeal of doing something unique and different, but I think for a ship that is such a fan favorite and something that has not been made into a Lego set in such a long time, or at least as a play set, I think the fans definitely deserve a normal gunship. Moving that Republic gunship to the side, we also had the launch of 3 sets from the Ahsoka series. We had the T6 shuttle, we had the E-Wing and Shin Hati Starfighter double pack, and we had the Ghost. And I think that all 3 of these sets range from pretty good to freaking awesome. I think that the T6 shuttle is probably the weakest of the bunch. People have noted the issues like the lack of detail on the underside of the wings. I personally don't mind this too much, but I do think it is probably a small thing Lego could have done, and clearly it would have made a big difference to the people buying the set. I think that the Shin Hati and E-Wing set is awesome. I love the design of Shin Hati Starfighter. I think that Lego did a really good job on the E-Wing as well, and I think that this is like the good version of Lego doing double ship packs. I think that the Mando Fangfighter and Interceptor is the not so good version, but this is the good version. I think both of these ships in this set feel really good. They're equivalent in quality. And then we had the Ghost. The Ghost, oh man, that set is unbelievably good. When the pictures leaked of it, my jaw dropped. When it comes to play sets, this is definitely the best play set that Lego dropped this year. It's kind of unfair because if the Venator didn't come out, I'd say it's the best set that Lego made, but unfortunately, I gotta give that to the Venator. The design of it is just so ingenious. The interior is awesome. The look of it is awesome. The fact that it comes with a small Phantom 2 is also awesome. There's just so many great things about this set. For what it is, I don't think that it is flawed in really any way. When I was planning this video, honestly forgot that this set came out this year, which I think says a lot about it. But also in September, we got the Chewbacca set, that $200 Chewbacca set. And I think this honestly might be a contender for the worst set of the year. And it feels kind of harsh to say because I think that there are a lot of good things about it, but I just think conceptually, a $200 big Lego Chewbacca, that has a face that most people just don't really care for is just such a weird concept for a set. And then finally came October and we had 2 more sets to be released. We had the Holiday Falcon diorama set, which I thought was actually a really cool and cute set. It was cool to get, a secondary holiday set that wasn't just an advent calendar, something more scenic that you can just set up on a shelf and be like, boom, that's my Star Wars holiday thing. I thought it was also cool that we get at least some sequel representation this year, even though, it's not really from the sequels, it's from the holiday special, but it's something, I guess. And then finally, we got the UCS Venator. Oh man, I was already pretty excited about this set, but once I got it built, and I'm looking at it right now off camera, that thing is freaking awesome. That is such a well-constructed set. It's surprisingly sleek. It's surprisingly maneuverable as well, picking it up and moving it around. If you guys haven't seen that picture that I took with it, you can see just how well constructed it is. I think that they knocked that one out of the park. If I had to give this year a ranking, or a rating rather, and from 1 to 10, I'd probably give it a 6.5. A lot of people are gonna look at that rating and say, wow, Jay, that's a really low rating, but I think it's actually kind of deserved. The Lego Star Wars assortment this year I felt was really top heavy. The Venator obviously is a standout. I thought that the Ghost set was also a standout. I thought that the Yavin set was a standout, and there's a couple Ahsoka sets in there that I think are also really good. But beyond that, I don't really see anything of note that I'm really going to remember for this year of LEGO Star Wars. The first half of the year overall was pretty underwhelming, and even though the second half of the year gave us some really cool things, I don't think it was enough for me to look at this year in totality and say, oh, that was a really good year of LEGO Star Wars. Honestly, I think the biggest issue with this year, and you guys have heard me say this before, is just the lack of variety. We got 0 sequel sets and 0 prequel sets. And even if you're a fan of the original trilogy, I think we maybe got like 2 or so play sets, and then everything else was pretty much like 18+ adult stuff. People always ask me what my favorite year of LEGO Star Wars is, and I always point to 2015 as being kind of the benchmark of what LEGO in a post-Disney era can look like. Obviously, there's years like 2013 and 2014 that are fantastic. Like, those are great examples of what LEGO can look like, you know, in a pre-Disney era. But in a post-Disney era where we just have so much more Star Wars content, I think there needs to be balance between the old stuff and the new stuff. Back in 2015, when The Force Awakens came out, it didn't feel like LEGO Star Wars was being overwhelmed by the new stuff. There were still plenty of original trilogy, prequel stuff, Clone Wars stuff, Rebels stuff, and then you had the sequel stuff come out at the end of the year. And I think that LEGO really upheld that throughout the entirety of the era where Disney was releasing Star Wars films. But I feel like now, with the dominance of sets based on TV shows that we get or the Clone Wars, if you're not into either of those things, there really just isn't much for you when it comes to LEGO Star Wars. So if I just had one request for LEGO going into 2024, I would just ask for more variety. But that's gonna finish up my 2023 LEGO Star Wars review. I'd love to know in the comment section, what do you guys think about this year of LEGO Star Wars? Do you think it is one of the better years, one of the worst years? Maybe give a 1 out of 10 rating of it like I did. If you like what I do, go ahead and support the video by hitting the like button, support the channel by smashing that subscribe button, and I'll be back again very soon.